My name is Dr. Farhan Malik. At the end of my speech, your job is to commit to one, just one action to help you overcome something you probably didn't even know you had, unconscious bias. A question I commonly get is, where am I from? And my favorite response is, New Jersey. But the information the person is actually seeking is this. This is my ancestry data, and as you can see, I'm 96.9% South Asian. But I'm not only Pakistani, I'm also African, Korean, and Japanese. You see, people often rely on the unconscious parts of their brains to make judgments about me, and that's totally expected. Unconscious bias evolved to help the human species survive. Let's say one day one of our cave-dwelling ancestors sets out walking across a plain and spots a creature approaching. Now, instead of jumping to conclusions, he wants to bust his biases. Well, it's thick and furry, so it's not an iguana. It's bigger than a bird, but smaller than an elephant. It's on the ground and not in the water, so it's not a fish. And then, this would likely be the result of our ancestors' bias-free day, being eaten by a lion. You see, without the brain's ability to subconsciously process thousands of pieces of information in an instant, our ancestors would have ended up as food. The same ability now gets us through the day without having to slowly process every decision we make. 99.99996% of the input your brain receives is processed unconsciously. Everyone is biased. It's important not to be ashamed of this basic fact. But it's also important to recognize that unconscious bias hinders diversity and, more worrisome, puts lives in danger. Serena Williams, the famous tennis player, just finished having a C-section when she felt short of breath. She told her nurse, who said that her pain medicine was probably just making her confused. After Serena insisted, the medical team finally ordered a CT scan, which revealed blood clots in her lungs. Fortunately, she survived this, but not without complications. Unfortunately, this is an all too common occurrence in the United States. Maternal mortality is steadily rising in the US. The only other country with a rising rate is Serbia. But the most frightening statistic is that 42.8% of these deaths that are preventable occur in black women. Put another way, black mothers are 3 to 4 times more likely to die than white mothers. Why is this? Well, there are many factors that play a role, but unconscious bias has something to do with it. Healthcare workers may not be taking black women's complaints as seriously as they should be. There's a perception that black women tolerate pain differently because of a higher muscle mass. Simply put, there's a fine line between clinical intuition and unconscious bias. So, how do we go about unbiasing ourselves? Start by structuring your interactions. At the next party you're at, I want you to ask the same 3 questions to the first 5 people you talk to, and find that you'll open yourself up to people and experiences. Next, evaluate your inner circle. Go home and in one column, jot down the top 10 people you trust outside of your spouse and family, and categorize them by age, race, gender, sexuality, disability, education. If you're finding a lot of homogeneity in that group, perhaps unconscious bias is hindering you. Last, speak up. Make it okay to call out unconscious bias. This is not an HR work issue. This is about all decision making, and we are all decision makers. If my friends and family are being explicitly biased, you better be sure I'm going to call them out on it. But if they're being unconsciously biased, I'm going to call them out on it too. Make it okay to call out unconscious bias. So, after you leave this theater tonight, I challenge you to commit to just one of these actions. Find that by unbiasing ourselves, we have the ability to elevate ourselves above our caveman ancestors. If there are any questions I can answer, please feel free to reach out to me. I sincerely thank you.